a hotel manager physically threw a construction worker out of the grand opening ceremony. "You filthy laborers don't belong here with important guests," he shouted. The worker left quietly. But 30 minutes later, when the owner took the stage to introduce the genius architect who designed the hotel, the room went silent in horror. This is the shocking true story of prejudice, karma, and a revelation that destroyed a career in seconds. What that manager didn't know about a dirty laborer would change everything. Before this story unfolds, tell me, what city are you watching from? Drop it in the comments now. And if you believe respect should be given to everyone regardless of appearance, hit that subscribe button. The story of instant karma is absolutely perfect. Let's begin. The Azure Palace Hotel stood gleaming in Mumbai's Bandra district, a masterpiece of modern architecture fused with traditional Indian soul. 27 stories of glass and sandstone featured intricate jelly screens and water features that seemed to defy gravity. The grand opening was the social event of the decade, attracting Bollywood stars, tech tycoons, and high-ranking officials. Rahul Verwai, the 35-year-old newly appointed general manager, surveyed the lobby with a sense of ultimate victory. Handpicked by the hotel's owner, billionaire Vikram Malhotra, Rahul knew this was his ticket to the top of India's hospitality industry. To him, every detail had to be sterile and perfect. The champagne was flowing, the Michelin-starred hors d'oeuvres were circulating, and the atmosphere was one of pure, unadulterated wealth. At 6 p.m., the elite began to arrive in a parade of limousines. Rahul, in his custom-tailored tuxedo, greeted the guests with a practiced, sycophantic smile. Everything was proceeding flawlessly until 6:47 p.m. That was when he spotted the eyesore. A man in his 50s, wearing cement-stained pants, a faded shirt, and dusty work boots, was walking across the pristine marble floor. He was looking at the architectural details with an expression of quiet pride. To Rahul, he looked like a common laborer who had wandered in off the street to gawk at things he could never afford. "Excuse me," Rahul said, his voice dripping with cold authority as he intercepted the man. "This is a private black-tie event. You need to leave immediately to the service exit." The man turned, his eyes calm and intelligent. "I was just admiring the light in the atrium," he replied softly. "It hits the sandstone exactly as intended." "I don't care about your opinions on the light," Rahul snapped. "You're a construction worker, and you are ruining the aesthetic of this opening. How did you even get past the gate?" The man reached into his pocket and produced an embossed invitation. "Arjun Khanna +1. Rahul didn't even verify the name. "This is clearly stolen or forged. Look at yourself. You smell like a worksite and you are covered in dust. Do you think I'm stupid?" Rahul signaled to 2 nearby security guards. "Remove this man. If he causes a scene, call the police. I want him barred from the property." As the guards took his arms, the man didn't struggle. He simply looked at Rahul with an expression of profound pity. "Please tell Mr. Malhotra that Arjun came as requested, but was told he didn't belong here," he said quietly. Rahul just sneered as the man was marched out into the night. At 7:30 p.m., the official ceremony began. Vikram Malhotra took the stage to thunderous applause. He spoke of the 3-year journey to build the Azure Palace and the values of excellence it represented. "But a building is only as great as the mind that conceived it," Vikram said, his voice filled with genuine respect. "Tonight, I want to introduce the man whose vision created this masterpiece. He is a genius who shuns the spotlight, often spending his days in the dust of construction sites to ensure every stone is perfect. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the world-renowned architect of the Azure Palace, Mr. Arjun Khanna." Rahul's heart plummeted into his stomach. From the side entrance, walking onto the stage in his dusty boots and cement-stained clothes, was a man he had just humiliated and thrown out. The room erupted in applause. But for Rahul, the world went terrifyingly silent. Rahul felt the floor drop out from under him. The construction worker he'd humiliated and physically ejected was Arjun Khanna, the celebrated architect who would design the entire hotel. The man whose invitation he declared fake. The man he'd told to know his place and get out. The blood drained from Rahul's face as the full magnitude of his catastrophic mistake became clear. Arjun walked to the center of the stage, and Rahul could see now what he'd missed before. The intelligence in those eyes, the confidence in his bearing despite the dirty clothes, the way he carried himself with quiet authority. Vikram embraced him warmly, then handed him the microphone. The applause continued for nearly a minute. "Thank you," Arjun said when the applause finally subsided. His voice was the same calm one Rahul had dismissed so contemptuously earlier. "I apologize for my appearance. I came directly from a final site inspection at another project and didn't have time to change. I almost didn't come at all. Actually, I was prevented from entering my own project's opening." The room went silent. Guests exchanged confused glances. Vikram's expression shifted to concern. "What do you mean, prevented?" he asked. Arjun's eyes scanned the room and landed on Rahul, who wanted desperately to disappear. "Your hotel's general manager decided that someone dressed as I am doesn't belong at a luxury event. He accused me of crashing with a fake invitation and had security remove me from the premises." Gasps rippled through the audience. All eyes turned toward Rahul, who stood frozen at the side of the stage. Vikram's face darkened with anger. "Is this true, Rahul?" His voice cut through the silence like a blade. Rahul's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. What could he say? Deny it, when security guards and guests had witnessed the incident. "Mr. Malhotra," Arjun continued, his voice still calm but now carrying an edge, "your manager told me I smelled like cement, that I didn't belong with important guests, and that this hotel was built for Mumbai's elite, not for workers like me. He instructed me to know my place and had me physically escorted out by security. I tried to explain, tried to have him verify my invitation with your office, but he refused to listen." The silence in the room was deafening. 400 of Mumbai's elite sat watching this drama unfold, their phones undoubtedly recording. Vikram's expression had gone from angry to furious. He gestured sharply to Rahul. "Get up here. Now." Rahul's legs felt like they were filled with concrete as he walked onto the stage, every eye in the room burning into him. "Explain yourself," Vikram demanded. "You threw the architect of this hotel out of its own opening." Rahul's mind raced desperately for some explanation that wouldn't sound as damning as the truth. "Sir, I didn't know who he was. He was dressed like a laborer. I thought he'd crashed the event. I was trying to maintain the exclusive atmosphere, to protect the quality of the opening, by judging a man's word based on his clothes." Vikram's voice was ice. "By assuming someone in work clothes couldn't possibly be an invited guest? By refusing to verify his invitation when he asked you to?" He turned to address the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you about Arjun Khanna. He has designed 5 internationally acclaimed buildings. He's won the Aga Khan Award for Architecture. He's been featured in Architectural Digest as one of the world's most innovative designers. But what makes Arjun truly exceptional," Vikram continued, "is that despite his fame and success, he personally visits construction sites. He gets his hands dirty checking materials, verifying that his designs are being implemented correctly, talking to the actual workers who build his visions. He dresses simply because he doesn't care about impressing people with expensive clothes. He cares about the quality of his work." Vikram's gaze returned to Rahul, withering in its contempt. "And my hotel's general manager saw those simple clothes, those dusty boots, and decided Arjun was worthless. Decided he didn't belong. Decided without any verification or basic courtesy, to have him thrown out. Tell me, Rahul, what does that say about your judgment, about your values, about your fitness to manage a hotel that Arjun designed? Rahul felt sweat dripping down his back. Sir, I made a terrible mistake. I sincerely apologize to Mr. Khanna. I should have verified, should have been more respectful, should have... Vikram held up a hand, cutting him off. Should have treated every person with basic human dignity regardless of their appearance? Yes, you should have, but you didn't, because you judge people's word by their clothes and their perceived social status. Arjun spoke again, his voice thoughtful rather than angry. Mr. Malhotra, if I may, this isn't just about me. I'm curious about something. He turned to Rahul. During this event, how have you treated the hotel staff? The waiters serving drinks, the people managing coats, the technicians running sound and lights? Have you thanked them, acknowledged them, or have you treated them the same way you treated me, as invisible servants who don't deserve respect? The question hung in the air. Before Rahul could answer, a voice came from the back of the room. He screamed at a waiter for bringing him the wrong folder 20 minutes ago, called him incompetent in front of guests. It was one of the hotel's assistant managers, a woman named Priya, her voice shaking but determined. He's berated staff all week during setup. He treats anyone he considers below his level with contempt. Another voice, this time from the catering staff. He complained that the servers weren't presentable enough and demanded we hide the older or less attractive staff in the kitchen. Said they'd ruin the aesthetic. The floodgates had opened. Staff members, emboldened by seeing their supposed superior being called out, began sharing their experiences of Rahul's behavior. He made a housekeeper cry yesterday because she didn't arrange towels the way he wanted. He refused to learn our names, just snaps his fingers when he wants something. He told the valet team they were lucky to have jobs at a luxury hotel and shouldn't expect to be treated like real employees. Each testimony was a nail in Rahul's coffin. Vikram listened to all of it, his face growing darker. When the testimonies finally stopped, he turned to Rahul with a look of pure disgust. You are fired. Effective immediately. Security will escort you from the premises. The same security you used to humiliate Mr. Khanna. You'll receive your final paycheck, but your employment at Azure Palace is terminated. You are everything I don't want representing this hotel. Rahul stood paralyzed on the stage, his carefully constructed career crumbling in real time before 400 witnesses and countless phones recording every moment. Sir, please, he began, his voice cracking with desperation. Give me another chance. I worked in hospitality for 12 years. I made one mistake. I was trying to protect the hotel's image. One mistake. Arjun's voice was quiet but cut through Rahul's pleading. Let me tell you what I observed in the 40 minutes I was in this hotel before being thrown out. You greeted wealthy guests with warm smiles and personal attention. You ignored staff members who tried to ask you questions. You snapped at a waiter who accidentally brushed your jacket. You laughed loudly with a group of businessmen while a cleaning person was on hands and knees scrubbing near you, and you never once acknowledged her presence. This isn't one mistake, Arjun continued. This is who you are, someone who values people based on their perceived status and wealth, someone who treats important people with respect and everyone else with contempt. Someone for whom basic human dignity is conditional on whether a person can benefit your career. His words were devastating precisely because they were delivered without anger, just factual observation. Vikram addressed the stunned audience. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this disruption to what should be a celebration, but I think it's important you witness this. Azure Palace is built on principles of excellence, yes, but also on respect for every person who contributed to its creation. From the architect who designed it, to the workers who build it, to the staff who will serve our guests. If my general manager cannot embody those values, he cannot represent this hotel. He turned back to Rahul. I built a career on reading people, on understanding character. When I hired you, I saw your impressive resume, your experience with luxury properties, your polished presentation. What I failed to see was this fundamental flaw in your character. That's my mistake, and I'm correcting it now. You are dismissed. Please leave before I have security remove you the same way you removed Mr. Khanna. The security guards who would escorted Arjun out earlier now approached Rahul. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. One of them, looking distinctly uncomfortable, said quietly, "Sir, please come with us." Rahul's legs felt weak as he walked off the stage, past the rows of guests who stared at him with expressions ranging from shock to satisfaction at seeing arrogance punished. As security escorted him to the lobby he'd been so proud of just an hour ago, Rahul's mind reeled with catastrophic consequences. Fired publicly from the most prestigious job he'd ever had. The video of this disaster would be everywhere by morning. Social media, news outlets, industry blogs. His reputation in hospitality was destroyed. No luxury hotel would hire someone who would humiliated a famous architect and been fired at a grand opening. In the manager's office, no longer his office, he was given 15 minutes to collect his personal belongings while security watched. His hand shook as he gathered photos, certificates, the nameplate that read Rao Verwa, General Manager, that he'd been so proud of when it was made. All of it meaningless now. His phone was already buzzing with messages from industry contacts who would somehow heard the news already. Back in the ballroom, Vikram had regained control of the event. I apologize again for that incident, but let me be clear about Azure Palace's values. Every person who enters this hotel, guest, staff member, delivery person, anyone, deserves to be treated with respect and dignity. Wealth doesn't determine worth. Designer clothes don't determine character. How you treat people when they can't benefit you, that's what reveals who you really are. He gestured to Arjun. Mr. Khanna embodies this principle. Despite his international acclaim and success, he treats construction workers with the same respect he shows billionaire clients. He knows their names. He asks about their families. He ensures they're paid fairly and work in safe conditions. That's the kind of person I want associated with Azure Palace. That's the standard we maintain. The audience applauded, but it was subdued. The celebratory mood had been broken by the drama they'd witnessed. Vikram understood this and made a decision. I think we all need a moment to reset. Please, enjoy the refreshments. To the hotel, experience what Mr. Khanna has created. We'll continue the program in 30 minutes. The crowd began to disperse, immediately breaking into animated conversations about what they'd just seen. Meanwhile, in a small office of the lobby, Rahul sat with his box of belongings, waiting for his exit paperwork. An HR manager named Deepa was processing his termination with professional detachment. You will receive 2 weeks' salary as severance per your contract. Your health insurance continues for 30 days. We'll need your hotel access cards, keys, and any other property immediately. Deepa, Rahul said, his voice hollow, we worked together for 3 months. You know I'm not a bad person. I made a judgment call. He looked like he didn't belong. How was I supposed to know he was the architect? Deepa looked at him with something like pity. Rahul, that's exactly the problem. You decided someone didn't belong based purely on their appearance. You never considered asking questions, verifying information, or simply being polite. You assumed, and you were catastrophically wronged. She handed him the termination papers. For what it's worth, I don't think you are evil. I think you are someone who spent too long in luxury hospitality measuring people's worth by their wealth. It's corrupted your judgment. Maybe this will teach you something valuable. But for now, you need to leave. Security will escort you out. Rahul signed the papers with a shaking hand and stood. The walk through the lobby toward the exit was excruciating. Staff members he dismissed and berated watched him leave. Some looked satisfied. Others looked uncomfortable. A few actually seemed sympathetic. The cleaning woman he'd ignored earlier was polishing a marble column and met his eyes as he passed. He wanted to apologize but couldn't find the words. What could he say that wouldn't sound hollow now? Outside a hotel, Rao stood on the sidewalk with his box of belongings, no longer the powerful general manager, but just another person on a Mumbai street. His designer tuxedo felt ridiculous now, costume clothing for a role he'd been fired from. His phone buzzed continuously, messages from former colleagues, friends, industry contacts. Most were some version of, "Is it true?" or "I just saw the video." The video. Of course, someone had posted it already. Probably multiple people. Rao pulled out his phone and searched Azure Palace opening. The results made him feel sick. Multiple videos from different angles. Headlines: Hotel manager throws acclaimed architect out of his own building's opening. Luxury hotel GM fired after judging architect by his clothes. Watch the moment arrogance destroyed a career. The comments were brutal. This is what happens when you judge people by their appearance. He treated a genius architect like garbage because he was wearing work clothes. Perfect karma. Every service worker knows this type of manager, glad he finally faced consequences. Thousands of comments, shares, reactions. His humiliation was entertainment for millions of people. His phone rang. His girlfriend Meera, who worked in fashion and understood image consciousness perhaps too well. "Rahul, what happened? The videos are everywhere. Everyone's talking about it. How could you not know who Arjun Khanna was?" Her voice carried disappointment more than sympathy. Rahul tried to explain. He was dressed like a construction worker. Dirty clothes, dusty boots. I thought he'd crash the event. I was trying to maintain standards by being cruel to someone in work clothes. Meera interrupted. "Rahul, this makes you look terrible. It makes me look terrible for being associated with you. Everyone I know has seen the video. My friends are asking me how I could date someone so classist and judgmental. I think we need some time apart. I can't be linked to the scandal right now." She hung up before he could respond. Rahul stood holding his phone, absorbing another loss. His job, his reputation, now his relationship. All destroyed in 2 hours because he judged a man's word by his appearance and had been spectacularly wrong. He tried to tell himself it was unfair, that anyone would have made the same assumption seeing someone in dirty work clothes at a black tie event. But he knew that was a lie. Plenty of people would have politely asked questions, verified the invitation, or simply shown basic courtesy. Over the next week, the full consequences of that night unfolded. The video went viral. Over 15 million views across various platforms. News outlets picked up the story. Business publications ran articles about unconscious bias in luxury hospitality. Arjun Khanna gave a gracious interview saying he held no ill will toward Rahul personally but hoped the incident would spark conversations about how we judge people's worth. Rahul applied to 17 luxury hotels over that week. All rejected him. His name was too toxic now. One HR manager was honest enough to explain. "Mr. Verma, you are associated with the worst kind of snobbery and poor judgment. No luxury property wants that liability. Perhaps try a different industry." The suggestion stung but was probably accurate. His parents called from their home in Pune, his mother crying, his father angry. "How could you embarrass us like this?" The whole community has seen the video. They're asking us how we raise a son who treats people with such contempt. What were you thinking? Rahul had no answer that would satisfy them or himself. In desperation, Rao reached out to a former mentor, Anil Sharma, who would retired from hospitality but still had industry respect. They met at a quiet cafe, far from the luxury hotels where Rao used to feel at home. Anil listened to Rao's story, then spoke with uncomfortable honesty. Rahul, I'm going to tell you something you won't want to hear. This didn't happen because of one bad decision. It happened because of who you become. I watched your career, Anil continued. I've seen you become progressively more focused on wealth, status, and appearance. You started valuing people based on what they could do for your career. You treated service staff as invisible. You networked upward and ignored downward. You became exactly the kind of manager who gives luxury hospitality a bad name, someone who confuses elegance with elitism. What do I do now? Raoul asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Anil sighed. You face the truth about yourself. You've been fired from luxury hospitality, probably permanently. Your reputation is destroyed, deservedly. But you are 35 years old. You have decades of life ahead. The question is, do you learn from this and become someone better, or do you stay bitter and resentful about being caught? Rahul spent that night in his apartment, an expensive rental he'd soon have to vacate, thinking about Anil's words. He watched the video of his firing again, forcing himself to see it clearly. The contempt in his voice when he spoke to Arjun, the arrogant assumption that someone in work clothes couldn't belong, the refusal to verify or question his own judgment, the casual cruelty. He thought about all the staff members he'd berated, ignored, or treated as less than human over his 12-year career. The servers, housekeepers, porters, technicians, people he'd never learned names of, never tanned genuinely, never saw as full human beings. He'd been so focused on impressing wealthy guests that he'd forgotten basic decency toward everyone else. 3 months after the Azure Palace disaster, Rahul sat in a very different environment, a small budget hotel in Pune, wearing a simple manager's uniform, helping a family check in for a wedding. The hotel was clean but basic, the kind of place where guests cared more about value than luxury. The pay was 1/3 of what he'd earned at Azure Palace. The prestige was non-existent, but they'd been willing to hire him after he'd been honest about his past. The owner, Mrs. Patel, was a widow who had built the hotel through decades of hard work. When Rahul had interviewed, she'd said bluntly, I've seen the video. You were an arrogant fool. Why should I hire you? Rahul had answered honestly, because I'm not that person anymore. I've spent 3 months learning exactly how wrong I was. I'll work harder than anyone, treat everyone with respect, and use my experience to help your hotel succeed. Give me a chance to prove I've changed. Mrs. Patel had hired him on probation with clear conditions. Any staff complaints about disrespectful treatment and he'd be fired immediately. 3 months in, Rahul had received 0 complaints. Instead, the staff actually liked him. He learned their names, asked about their families, helped with tasks beneath his position, and treated everyone with genuine respect he was discovering he should have been showing all along. One afternoon, a man in worn clothes carrying paint supplies arrived at the hotel. The old Rahul would have dismissed him as just a laborer. The new Rahul greeted him respectfully. Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you? The man explained he was there to touch a paint in the rooms. They had a pleasant conversation about the work. Later, Mrs. Patel mentioned that the painter had commented on how courteous the manager was. He said most fancy hotel managers treat painters like they're invisible. You treated him like a person. Good. Rao was learning what he should have known all along. Everyone deserves basic dignity and respect. The painter, the housekeeper, the night watchman, the delivery person, all of them were people with families, dreams, dignity. Their worth wasn't determined by their job or clothes. How had he spent 12 years in hospitality without understanding this fundamental truth? The viral video had mostly faded from active discussion, though it occasionally resurfaces when people discuss workplace bias or hospitality industry problems. Rahul had stopped reading the comments. What mattered now wasn't managing his image but actually changing who he was. He volunteered at a shelter on weekends, working alongside people experiencing homelessness, learning their stories, understanding how fragile the line between success and struggle could be. 6 months into his job at the budget hotel, Rao received an unexpected email from Arjun Khanna. Mr. Verma, I hope this message finds you well. I've heard through mutual contacts that you are working at a hotel in Pune and conducting yourself very differently than at Azure Palace. I wanted to reach out because I believe in people's capacity to learn and change. If you are ever in Mumbai, I'd welcome the opportunity to meet for coffee. Arjun. Rahul stared at the email in shock. The man he'd humiliated was reaching out with kindness. He replied immediately, accepting the offer and thanking Arjun for his grace. They met 2 weeks later at a simple cafe in Bandra, both dressed casually. Arjun greeted him warmly, with no trace of resentment. Thank you for meeting me, Rahul said. I owe you an apology that's months overdue. I was wrong about everything. The way I treated you, my assumptions, my values. I'm deeply sorry. Arjun nodded. I accept your apology. But I want you to understand something. That night wasn't just about me being an architect. If I'd actually been a construction worker or a laborer, would your treatment of me have been acceptable? Rao shook his head. No, that's what I finally learned. Everyone deserves respect regardless of their position or appearance. I was taught that in hospitality school, but somewhere along the way I forgot it. Or maybe I never really believed it. Tell me, Arjun said, what have you learned from this experience? Rahul thought carefully before answering. I learned that I'd become someone who measured people's worth by what it could do for my career. I'd lost sight of basic human decency. I treated service workers as invisible, wealthy guests as gods, and anyone in between with contempt or indifference. Getting fired was humiliating, but it forced me to face truths I'd been avoiding. They talked for over an hour. Arjun shared his own journey, how despite his success he maintained humility by remembering his roots, by staying connected to the actual work of building, by treating construction workers and clients with equal respect. Success, wealth, status, none of it means anything if you lose your humanity in pursuing it. That's what I try to remember. As they parted, Arjun said something Rahul would never forget. You failed a test that night, Rahul, but failure can be the best teacher if you are willing to learn. You are learning. Keep going. Become someone who judges character, not clothes. Respect effort, not just achievement. Value people for who they are, not what they have. Do that, and the Azure Palace disaster becomes the moment you became better, not the moment that destroyed you. 2 years after the Azure Palace incident, Rao stood in a community center in a Mumbai slum, conducting a hospitality training workshop for young people from underprivileged backgrounds. He taught them service skills, customer interaction, professional behavior, but most importantly, he taught them that their worth wasn't determined by the customers they served, that dignity was inherent, not earned through wealth. Mrs. Patel had promoted him to regional manager overseeing 3 of her budget hotels. The pay still wasn't what he'd earned in luxury hospitality, but it was enough. More importantly, the work felt meaningful. He was helping create opportunities for people who would never had them, running hotels that served families who couldn't afford luxury but deserved quality and respect. One of his trainees, a young man named Akash from a construction worker family, approached after class. Sir, I heard about what happened at Azure Palace. The video. Everyone in hospitality knows it. Can I ask, how did you come back from that? Rahul appreciated the directness. By accepting I deserve what happened, By changing fundamentally, not just pretending. By learning that respect isn't about someone's position, it's about their humanity. Your father who works construction, he deserves the same respect as the wealthiest hotel guest. I had to lose everything to learn that. Don't make my mistake. The Azure Palace had become one of Mumbai's most successful luxury hotels under new management. Rahul had heard they maintained strict standards about staff treatment. Any manager caught being disrespectful to employees or judging people by appearance faced immediate termination. His firing had created positive change, at least there. The story was still used in hospitality schools as a case study in unconscious bias and the importance of treating everyone with dignity. Rahul's relationship with his family had healed once they saw his genuine transformation. His mother told him she was prouder of who he was now, working with underprivileged youth, treating everyone with respect, than she'd ever been when he managed luxury properties. His father admitted, "We raised you with too much focus on status and wealth. This experience taught you what we should have taught you. Character matters more than career." On the second anniversary of his firing, Rahul wrote a long blog post titled, "The Day I Lost Everything and Found Myself." He detailed the Azure Palace incident, his mistakes, his journey of change. The post went viral, though this time the comments were different. This is real accountability and growth. More people should be dishonest about their failures. He actually learned. That's rare. Arjun Khanna shared a post with comment. 2 years ago, Mr. Verma judged me by my work clothes and had me removed from my own building's opening. Today, he's teaching young people that everyone deserves dignity regardless of appearance. This is what growth looks like. Proud of your journey, Rahul. The endorsement from the man he'd wronged meant everything. Rahul never returned to luxury hospitality. He'd found his calling working with budget hotels and training programs, helping people who reminded him of the laborers, servers, and housekeepers he'd once dismissed. Every day was a chance to live the values he'd learned so painfully. That worth isn't measured in wealth, that respect isn't conditional on status, that how you treat people who can't benefit your career reveals your true character. The video of his firing was still online, viewed occasionally by new audiences. Rahul no longer avoided it. Instead, he used it in his training sessions, showing young hospitality workers what not to become. "This was me," he'd say, "judging a brilliant architect by his dusty boots. Learn from my mistake. Treat everyone with dignity, because you never know who they are, but more importantly, because it's simply the right thing to do." 5 years after Azure Palace, Rahul received an invitation to speak at a hospitality industry conference. The topic, "Learning from Failure, How One Mistake Changed My Career and My Character." He accepted, knowing he'd face an audience who remembered his viral humiliation. Standing at the podium, he saw Vikram Malhotra in the crowd, the man who had fired him. Their eyes met. Vikram nodded slightly, an acknowledgement that Rahul had indeed changed. "I was fired from the best job I'd ever had," Rahul began, "because I treated a famous architect like garbage based on his appearance. I deserved to be fired. But what I learned from that experience, about bias, about respect, about human worth, that education was worth more than any luxury hotel position. Today, I'm grateful for that firing. It destroyed who I was so I could become who I should have been all along. And that's the person I'm still working to be every single day." The story of Rahul Verma and Arjun Khanna became a parable in India's hospitality industry, not just about one manager's fall, but about his rise afterward, about how failure, accepted and learned from, could transform someone, about how the measure of character wasn't avoiding mistakes, but how you responded when your mistakes were exposed, about how treating everyone with dignity wasn't just morally right, it was the foundation of genuine success, and about how sometimes The worst moment of your life could become the catalyst for becoming your best self.